Okay, reducing and enlarging compounded prescriptions. So we are on page 391 if you're following along in the book. So sometimes we will already have a formula for a compound, but we might not necessarily need to make as much as the compound is calling for, or we may need to make more than the recipe states, okay? So we're going to go through a couple examples of how to solve for those types of problems. Very similar math to what we've been doing, and we can solve a lot of these just with ratio and proportion. So number 17 on the worksheet here, we have a formula for a 5% ibuprofen gel. So there's going to be 5 grams of ibuprofen and 95 grams of base. Okay, so like I said on the last video, if you ever get a formula and it doesn't tell you the total, you should probably solve for that first. Okay, so 5 grams and 95 grams. Well, that makes a total of 100 grams. And that makes sense because it's a 5% ibuprofen gel. We know that that means that there's 5 grams of ibuprofen in every 100 grams of gel. So this is our formula that we have in the pharmacy. Now it says write a formula needed to make 45 grams. So here we don't need to make the full 100. We only need to make 45. So we can do this with simple ratio and proportion. So let's start with ibuprofen. We know that we need 5 grams of ibuprofen in every 100 grams of gel. So now we can set that equal to what we're trying to make. Well, we're trying to make a total of 45 grams of gel. So the gel has to go on the bottom. When I solve for X, that will tell me how many grams of my ibuprofen I will need. So 45 times 5, and then we're going to divide that by 100. So I get 2.25 grams of ibuprofen. Now I need to figure out how much base I would need. Well, taking it back to what we talked about earlier in the lecture, remember total minus your stock will equal your solvent. So total, we're trying to make a total of 45 grams minus the stock, which is our ibuprofen. You could also say active here if that helps you remember. Total minus active equals solvent or your diluent or your base, okay? So 45 minus 2.25 would give me 42.75 grams, and that would be of my base here. So that essentially would be my formula. I would need to add 2.25 grams of ibuprofen to 42.75 grams of base to prepare 45 grams of a gel, okay? And that gel would still be a 5% gel. We're just changing the formula, okay? So making a new quantity, but keeping that percentage strength the same, okay? Because we know that this is a 5%, 5 over 100, okay? So what I would like you to do now is prepare a formula to make 240 grams of gel. You should be able to do that based on the example that we just went through. And then after you have done that, we can move on to number 18. Last one here. I know this has been a long worksheet to get through, so if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking through it. All of these are great skills that you should know to be a technician. And, if you're interested in being a compounding technician or working in an institutional pharmacy in the future, these math skills will get you very far in that field, okay? So last one. The following recipe is for 10 milligrams per mil of drug A. And then we have our recipe. So drug A comes in 150 milligram tablets, and it says we're using 15 tablets. Just so we're clear on that, that's quantity of 15 tablets. 20 mils of sterile water, 4 mils of cherry flavoring, and then we're going to QS to 100 mils with simple syrup. So once again, this does not mean we're using 100 mils of simple syrup. This means we're going to add enough simple syrup to get us to the final volume of 100 mils. Okay, so this formula makes a total of 100 milliliters. Now the question says, write the formula needed to prepare 6 ounces. So in this case, I know my ounces are going to be fluid ounces because this is a liquid, okay? So I need to change these ounces into mils. Well, we know that 1 ounce is 30 mils. So 6 ounces, 6 times 30 gives us 180 mils. So I'm really preparing 180 mils here. Now we can use ratio and proportion to do just that. Okay, so just like the one we did before, just looks a little bit different. This is a liquid this time instead of a gel. So let's start looking at each drug individually. So drug A, we know that we need 15 tablets in a total of 100 mils. Now we're trying to make a formula to make a total of 180 mils. So what we can do is just set that equal to x over 180. So 15 times 180 divided by 100, x gives me 27 tablets. So for this formula, I would need 27 tablets of drug A. And then we're going to do the same thing for the sterile water. So 20 mils. I know that there's 20 mils in my 100 mil recipe. So I would set that equal to, once again, x over 180. So I want you to go ahead and do that for the sterile water, and then do that for the cherry flavor as well. And then with the simple syrup, there's really not a way for us to determine that amount. So with the simple syrup, we would just need to say QS to the new volume, which our new volume is 180. So when you get to the simple syrup, you would just write QS to 180 mils with the simple syrup. Okay, so go ahead, finish those out, and then we should be done with the worksheet. So make sure that you turn that in class the next time you're in. Please let me know if you're having any questions over any of these concepts. I know it's a lot to cover this week. I'm available for tutoring, so just send me those questions via text or email, or come in on your work day if you'd like.